want you to picture the most common piece of advice in our entire industry. You go to a conference, you listen to a webinar, you read a thread, and the message is always the same. Here are 17 tools you should be using. Here's the app that will change your practice. Here's the new AI thing everybody's adding this month. The whole conversation is about adding more tools, more apps, more automation, more stuff bolted onto the side of your business. And I think that advice is not just unhelpful, I think it's actively backwards. Because the problem in almost every small firm I look at is not too few tools, it's the opposite. It is a pile of tools that do not talk to each other, that each hold a different version of the truth, and that collectively make the owner feel busier and more scattered than when they had nothing at all. The problem is that there is no hub. So today we're switching gears in this series. The first 3 episodes were about the numbers, the ones that tell you whether a business actually works. Now we move to the systems, the machinery that produces those numbers reliably without you having to live inside your business to make it run. And here's the link between the two halves of this series because it's not an accident that the numbers came first. You cannot produce a clean gross margin or a reliable customer acquisition cost by channel if your data is scattered across 5 places that disagree with each other. The numbers we spent 3 episodes on only become trustworthy once there is a single source of truth feeding them. So the systems are not a separate topic. They are what make the numbers real. And the very first move, before you add a single tool, before you automate a single thing, is to decide where your truth lives. That is what we are doing today. We are picking the hub. Hey friends, welcome to the Thrive Advisor podcast, where we help tax advisory firm owners build practices that are sustainable and profitable. I'm your host, Aaron Siegel. Let me say the thesis plainly, because it runs against almost everything you've been told. Most automation advice is wrong, and it is wrong because it starts in the wrong place. It starts with the tools. The right place to start is with a single question: where does the truth live in my business? Here's what I mean by that, and this is a universal principle, so let me state it cleanly before I drop into my own world to show you what it looks like. Every business has data that everything else depends on. Who your clients are, which stage each one is at, what you have promised them and by when, what is done and what is not. In a healthy business, there is one place that holds the real version of that information and everything else defers to it. That one place is your hub. It is your single source of truth, the place where the data lives that everything else trusts. Now, let me make it concrete in my practice, and as I do, I want you to translate it into yours. In my firm, the hub is my practice management system. That is where I know at any moment, any client, every open engagement, every deadline, every ball that is in the air. Your version might be different. If you serve dentists, your hub might be your CRM. If you run a tiny shop, your hub might genuinely be a single well-built Google sheet. The point is not which product you pick. The point is that there is one, and that everything else in your business orbits around it instead of competing with it. Because here is what happens when you don't have a hub. The truth gets scattered. Some client info is in your email, some is in a spreadsheet, some is in your tax software, some is in a notebook on your desk, and some is only in your head. And the second your truth is scattered across 5 places, you become the integration. You are the only thing holding it together, which means the business cannot run without you sitting in the middle of it, manually moving information from one place to another. That is not a system. That is a job you gave yourself, and it is the exact job that keeps you working 7 days a week. And I want to put a real cost on that because it's easy to treat scattered data as a minor annoyance instead of the serious tax it actually is. Every time your truth lives in 5 places, you pay in 3 currencies. You pay in time, the hours you spend reconciling what the spreadsheet says against what the software says against what you remember. You pay in errors, the missed deadline or the double billed client that happens because 2 systems disagreed and nobody caught it. And you pay in the thing that is hardest to measure and the most expensive of all, which is that you can never fully step away. You cannot take a real vacation. You cannot delegate cleanly. You cannot ever stop being the human glue because the moment you leave, the truth stops being held together. The fractured system does not just cost you efficiency, it costs you your freedom, and it quietly caps how big and how calm your practice can ever get. A hub is what buys all of that back. Before we talk about adding anything, I have to give you the warning that I wish somebody had hammered into me earlier because it's the most expensive mistake people make the moment they get excited about automation. I call it the amplification trap. Here's the trap. Bad data plus automation equals bad data faster. Automation does not fix a broken process. It accelerates whatever process you already have. So if your client information is a mess and you automate on top of that mess, you have not solved anything. You have just built a machine that produces and distributes your mess at scale, automatically, around the clock, without you even watching. Let me make that real. Say your client records are full of duplicates, outdated email addresses, and engagements marked as open that actually closed 6 months ago. If you hand manage that, it's annoying, but contained. Now you connect an automation that fires off emails based off those records. Congratulations, you are now automatically emailing the wrong people at the wrong addresses about the work that's already done, and you're doing it faster than you ever could by hand. You took a small, quiet problem and you gave it a megaphone and an engine. So the rule is simple and it's absolute. Never automate something that is still broken. Fix the data first. Clean the hub before you connect anything to it. The most tempting time to skip this step is exactly when you are most excited about a new shiny tool, and that is precisely when it will hurt you the most. Get the truth right in one place. Then, and only then, do you start connecting things to it. Let me answer the question you're probably asking right now, which is fine, but how do I know about which thing should be my hub? Because you might have 3 candidates already and no idea which one wins. Here's the test I use, and it's just 2 questions. First question. Which system, if it vanished overnight, would actually stop your business from running? Not which one is the most expensive or the most fun to use. Which one holds the information you literally cannot operate without? For a lot of advisors, that is the place that tracks who their clients are and what is owed to them. That is a strong hub candidate because everything else is downstream of it. The second question. Which system are you already treating as the truth without admitting it? There's almost always one place you instinctively go to answer the question, where do things stand? Sometimes it's a real piece of software. Sometimes, embarrassingly, it's your own memory or notebook or your inbox. Wherever you actually go to find the truth right now, that is telling you where your truth wants to live. Your job is to make that the official, deliberate hub instead of an accidental one. And here is the freeing part. Your hub does not have to be expensive, and it does not have to be the perfect long-term answer. It has to be one place, and it has to be the place everything else defers to. I've seen advisors paralyzed for months trying to pick the perfect practice management platform where they could have declared a Google Sheet the hub that afternoon and actually started operating. You can always upgrade your hub later. What you cannot do is run a coherent business with 5 competing sources of truth and no center. Pick the center first, improve the center later. Okay, so you've picked your hub, you've cleaned it. Now we can talk about everything else. And here's the mental model for the whole system. Picture a wheel. The hub is at the center holding the truth. And then you have spokes reaching out from that center to all the different places where the actual work happens. Because here's the thing. The hub holds the truth, but the work does not all happen in the hub. You send emails somewhere. You sign documents somewhere. You do the bookkeeping somewhere. You schedule calls somewhere. Those are all spokes. They are the places where work gets done, and the spokes are how data moves between the center and the edges. The hub is the one source of truth. The spokes let that truth flow out to where it's useful and flow back when something changes. And this reframes how you should think about every single tool you're ever tempted to add. The question is no longer, is this a cool tool? Almost everything is a cool tool now. The question is, does this earn a spoke? Does this connect back to my hub and make my one source of truth more useful? Or is it just one more island, one more place where a separate competing version of the truth is going to start accumulating? And I want you to notice something about most of the tools that get marketed to you. Most of them are not trying to be a spoke. Most of them are trying to be the hub. Every project management app, every all-in-one platform, every shiny new system wants to become the center of your business, the place where all your truth lives. They cannot all be at the center. You only get one center. So most tools, when you hold them up to the does this earn a spoke test, fail it. They are not adding to your system, they're trying to replace it and quietly fracture your truth in the process. Saying no to those is protecting the one thing that makes your whole business coherent. So let's say a tool does earn a spoke. It genuinely deserves to be connected, it does real work, it talks back to your hub. How should you actually connect it? Because this is where people either overspend, overcomplicate, or build something fragile that breaks the moment they look away. There's a clear hierarchy here, and you should walk it in order every time. Native first, Zapier second, custom last. So native first. If two tools have a built-in native integration where they were designed to talk to each other directly, you use that, full stop. It's almost always free, it's supported by the vendors themselves, and it's the most stable option you will ever get because the companies maintain it for you. Always check whether a native connection exists before you do anything fancier. People skip this constantly and pay for connections they could have had for free. Zapier second. If there's no native option, then you reach for something like Zapier, a connector tool that sits between two apps and passes information back and forth. This is the workhorse for the small firm. When this tool gets a new booking, create a client record over here. It's not free, and it is one more thing that can break, but it requires zero code and it handles the enormous majority of what a small firm would ever need. For most of you, native plus Zapier covers basically everything. And then custom last. And I mean genuinely last, only when both of the other options have failed you. A custom-built connection, something written in code that talks directly to a tool's API, is the most powerful option and almost always the most expensive in every sense. It costs money to build, and it costs you ongoing attention to maintain because when something changes, there's no vendor fixing it for you. You are the vendor now. There are real moments when it is worth it, when a workflow is central enough to your business and there's no other way to do it. But you walk down to that level only after Native and Zapier have both told you no. Let me give you the principle underneath the hierarchy, because the principle outlives any specific tool. At every step, you're trading money and fragility for capability. You climb to the next rung only when the rung you are on cannot do the job. That keeps your system as simple, as cheap, and as stable as it can possibly be while still doing what you need. Most firms reach straight for the most complicated option because it feels impressive. The disciplined firm reaches for the simplest tool that works. I want to make this tangible because I've been talking in shapes and wheels, and you might be wondering what this looks like when it's actually built. Let me walk you through a couple of real spokes from my own practice, and again, translate the function into your world as I go. So spoke 1. When someone books a discovery call with me, that booking automatically creates a contact in my hub before the call even begins. The scheduling tool is the spoke, the connector passes the information, and my practice management system, the hub, gets the new client teed up without me touching anything. The function, strip away my specific tools, is that a lead never falls through the cracks and I never do data entry for a new prospect. Your version is whatever turns an inbound inquiry into a tracked record automatically. Spoke 2, physical mail. I use a service that scans my incoming mail, and when an IRS notice comes in, it gets routed and stored automatically and the right people get pinged. For a resolution practice, that's not just convenience. It turned into an actual productized service I can offer. The function is that an important document never sits unopened on a desk for 2 weeks. Your version might be client documents, signed engagement letters, whatever the critical paper is in your world. In spoke 3, file handling. When a document gets uploaded into my hub, it automatically syncs to where my team actually works with it. So the file lives wherever it is useful, but the hub still knows it exists. That's the whole philosophy in one motion. The hub holds the truth about what exists and where things stands. The data itself is free to live anywhere it's useful as long as it always reports back to the center. The function, again stripped of my specific tools, is that nobody is ever hunting through 3 folders and an email thread looking for the current version of something. Now, a word on the order you build these in, because this is where people sabotage themselves. Do not start with the most exciting spoke. Start with the one that removes your most painful recurring chore, the thing you do every week that you resent. Automate the bleeding first. The flashy stuff can wait. When you fix the chore that wastes 2 hours every Monday, you immediately buy back time and attention that you can reinvest into building the next spoke. Build in the order of what hurts most, and the system funds its own construction in hours saved. The deeper point is this. My system today touches communications, billing, admin, tax tools, bookkeeping, payroll, a whole operating system of connected spokes. And it is genuinely impressive now, but I didn't build it in a weekend, and I didn't buy it as a bundle. It took years, and it started with a Google Sheet, one source of truth, and then one spoke at a time, each one earning its place. If you look at a mature firm's stack and feel behind, understand that you are comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. The way you get there is not by buying everything at once. It's by picking the hub and then adding one good spoke at a time. There is one more piece, and I'm not going to let this episode end without it because it is the line that separates a sustainable practice from a reckless one. No matter how much you automate, your judgment stays human. The model for everything we just built is simple. The system drafts, you decide. Automation moves information, prepares the work, eliminates the boring data entry, and hands you something teed up and ready. But the decision, the thing that goes out under your name and your license, that stays with you. You review before anything goes to a client, always. This matters more in our profession more than any other because we're bound by real obligations. There are rules about how client information can be handled and disclosed. Your professional duties do not get delegated to a piece of software, and the automation did it has never been a defense that protects anybody. We're going to dig into the specific compliance side of this in the next episode, especially where AI is concerned, because it's genuinely one of the most important and least discussed topics in our field right now. For today, just hold the guardrail. Build the system so it does the moving. Keep the deciding for yourself. A business that runs without you living inside it is the goal. A business that makes decisions without you watching is a liability. So here is the whole thing in one breath. The problem was never too few tools, it was no hub. So when you pick your hub first, that's the place where the truth lives. You clean it before you connect anything because automating broken data just breaks things faster. Then you add spokes, one at a time, asking of each one, does this earn a spoke or is it just trying to be a second hub? You connect them native first, Zapier second, custom last. And through all of it, the system drafts and you decide. Here's your permission for the week. You don't have to build the whole operating system this month. You do not have to automate everything. In fact, please don't. The goal is not maximum automation. It's a coherent system with one center built one deliberate piece at a time. So here's your one move, the Monday morning move. Just decide what your hub is. That's it. Name the one place that holds or should hold the real truth about your clients and your work. And if you genuinely don't know, if you cannot name it, then your answer for this week is to start a single Google sheet and make that your source of truth. The entire system gets built from there, but only after you've planted the center. Next episode, we'll get into how you actually talk to the AI that powers a lot of these spokes and the compliance lines you cannot afford to cross while doing it. If you're ready to build systems with advisors who get it, come join us in the Thrive Advisor Collective on School. The link is in the show notes. If this sparked a light bulb for you, share this episode with another advisor who's drowning in tools and one hub away from getting their life back. You've been listening to the Thrive Advisor podcast. Work smarter, serve better, thrive always. We'll see you next time.